conference day of the Alternate Future Summit. In the morning, we have talks in the topic of education and the future of education and the role of technology in that. Really interesting talks. It's on YouTube already, so you can check there. Now we are going to move to the field of corporate. So the topic is the same. We're focusing on the future of corporate and what's, again, the role of technology in that. But the field, instead of education, it's corporate now. So organizations and companies and how the future is going to look like for these areas. So we will start with people, with Brett from People 3, and then we are going to move for several more speakers. And this slot will last for about 2 hours and a half. So stay with us, and this is going to be really good. Maria has some things to add, and then we can start.
Thank you, Marta. So just a little teaser about what's going to happen. So like Marta just said, the topic is to discuss technology in the corporate world. Expect to discuss technology itself, okay, how it's impacting, but also how the human side has to be brought up to the surface. So with that, we have Valerie, for example, speaking about it, but also we had the feeling that we needed something more. We needed someone to add to these layers. So we also have youth here, even though we were kind of in between to put in an education or corporate, but we found that it was really important to have a young voice speaking this in this slot on the corporation one. Okay, just to give you a heads up. So on the right, you can see the logos of our sponsors, but more than sponsors, they are our supporters. They supported us with knowledge, with mentorship as well. We have the Ocean Protocol, People 3 Group, and Startup Map with the Deep Sea Accelerator, from which we are in, and we are also in a kind of a relationship for 2 years. So expect good things from this. And on the top, you can see also other sponsors, mainly community ones, also the ones who showcase. So there's a lot of interesting initiatives and content that you can see throughout this week, okay? Even though already happened, you can always go to YouTube and check it out. So let's start it. Yes, so, Brett, are you ready?
Hi, everyone. I'm here.
The stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Let me just get my screen share up and we can get started. All right, so yes, the conference today is about the future of work, and I've been tasked with an introduction. So let's have a talk about the future of work. If you Google this term, you typically find a definition something similar to what's on my screen. The future of work describes how things will change in the way we do work, how the influence of technology in society and other socioeconomic factors will influence this change. But if we're going to start with, if we're going to talk about the future of work, let's start with, well, what is work? And to do that, let's look back into the history of work and see what work has been done and how it's looked previously. There's always been work to do, and there's always been people to do that work. In the early stages of our evolution, this almost exclusively focused on food, shelter, and childcare. People needed to carry water, people needed to hunt and forage for food, and take care of the youngest and most vulnerable members of the tribe or the family. How do they divide things up? Who does what job? Well, in those days, physical attributes had an enormous role to play in dividing up the various jobs that needed to be done. Specifically, age and gender were the primary attributes in deciding who did what job. The older generations couldn't hunt, they weren't strong or agile enough, so the younger men mostly hunted, and younger members of the community would forage. Women, for the most part, would take care of cooking and childcare. But essentially, the need for food, shelter, and clothing drove society. It guided what work was needed, who did that work, and how it was done. If we fast forward a few thousand years from the early stages of our evolution, once societies had started to grow, evolve, and become more complex, basic needs were being met more easily, and work started to become more specialized. Now, specialization emerged partly based on individual attitude, but mostly early specialization was driven by availability of resources. And we see examples of this in the early textile industries and in the early stages of the pottery industry. To become a pottery specialist, you had to have access to the right type of clay. And so only the communities or the people within those communities that had access to the right type of clay ended up specializing in pottery. Again, if we fast forward a few hundred years as society evolved and populations began to grow exponentially, specialization of work remained important, but mass production became the focus. And Henry Ford is often credited with inventing the assembly line. Arguably, another American industrialist before Henry was the first pioneer of this, called Ransom Olds. But in fact, there are many much earlier examples of this assembly line approach. There was a man named Josiah Wedgwood, who was a British entrepreneur. Today, Wedgwood's a well-established brand, and he started making pottery and ceramics using an assembly line approach in the mid-1700s, which was unheard of in those days. And so what he realized, and many other people of that time, was that in order to scale a specialization, it was important to break the task up into small pieces. So when we look at the future of work, what has fundamentally changed? Well, a couple of things have fundamentally changed. The first is that physical attributes are no longer a differentiator of how we choose to divide labor. Work is no longer decided on just by the availability or access that we have to resources. And I think we all know now we don't necessarily have to specialize in order to scale. We can more easily access the knowledge we need. We can access resources and tools more easily in order to apply the skills that we have. And we can also market our services to a much larger market. The biggest difference between now and between then and now is that each of us individually have this ability to do these things at an individual level in a global world. And so I guess the future of work, besides all of the future of work terms like blockchain and AI and machine learning, it potentially is that any of us can do anything, because what historically were constraining factors around what we could physically do, what we had access to in our limited geography, and the few people we could interact with are no longer constraining factors. And so the future is all about enabling factors that are today in place. Knowledge is fairly easily available if you've got access to the internet. Places like Udemy and the Khan Academy making information accessible and affordable to lots of people. Tools and resources, again, through the internet are global and relatively inexpensive to access. And of course, we can connect with people like on the call today from different cultures, different communities, different countries, and in different time zones with the click of a button or using a tool like VideoWiki. And so one of the most important things that I think we'll need to make sure we are proficient at in the future is this ability to change and adapt. Because we don't know what the future holds, but we do know that the more change able we are, the more likely we are to be able to prepare for an uncertain future. Yeah, you might say, well, we need some new skills. What about the new skills we need? I'd argue that for the most part, the skills required in the future are not necessarily new skills entirely, but usually they're a combination of existing skills, but a combination that is currently not common or found. And I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. You think about something like data visualization, which perhaps 15, 20, 25 years ago was relatively unheard of, or certainly looked incredibly different to what it looks like today. Visualization, data visualization skills today are in demand. We might think that's a new skill, but in fact, it's just a combination of skills that people had previously. Statistic and maths ability, data literacy, understanding design principles, understanding visual hierarchy. These skills have always existed, but they've previously existed in different people. So with data visualization as my example, the difference is that the combination of those skills is now different. The context that they get deployed in is new. And because of that, the combination of skills and the ability for us to adapt and change to the future is increasingly important. And so I would argue that rather than talking about the future of work, which I know is the title of the section, we could be talking about the future of talent, because that's really what is going to drive our collective success in the future. And the word human was mentioned earlier, and that coincides with the rest of the schedule that we've got lined up for today. You'll see in each one of the topics coming up for the rest of the afternoon, the concept of humans, people, and talent is a common thread throughout everything we're about to hear. So thanks very much for having me, and I look forward to the rest of the presentations today.
Thank you, Red. This is an amazing way to start the corporate slot. Thank you for noticing that all the talks that come after are also human related. This was a very nice touch that you gave. Very cool. And now for Gayatri, as you were saying, the topic is going to be if robots will replace humans. And as Maria was saying, that we have youth here with us today. Gayatri is only 16.
Yeah. It's actually the future generation, and that's why we thought it was so important to have such a young perspective, but at the same time be connected with the education, because she's still in the education space, right? But she already has a vision about how corporate will look like. So Gayatri, the space is yours. We are really anxious to hear. Feel comfortable to do it.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, as you all know, I am Gayatri Rayasam. I'm a curious researcher in the field of AI and robotics, and I'll be talking about the future of robotics and the future of work and how robots will replace humans. So, I unsurprisingly foresee the future permeated with automation, AI, and robots. AI can automate, AI can differentiate, AI can reciprocate, AI can create, and whatnot. AI is apparently the trailblazer career option. Longing for growth and development, a farmer would definitely not want their child to be a farmer. A teacher would not want their child to be a teacher, and etc. But who would feed the world if there is no farmer? Who would guide the students if there is no teacher? AI has an answer: robots. Robots would potentially replace these critical careers which support the lifestyle of every human that exists on Earth. The future I'm talking about, it's not so far. In fact, it has commenced already. For instance, housemates are being replaced by robotic vacuum cleaners, which do a better job than humans without human interference. Now, during the pandemic, artificial intelligence and machine learning have been of such substantial help. AI could detect asymptomatic COVID-19 infection through recorded cough. AI could possibly be an essential tool in the medical field now, as well as in the future. Switching to robots is a mixed blessing. The pros include human error, which causes damage and loss, can be avoided. Human labor at manufacturing companies, construction sites, etc., can be eradicated, and accidents at these places can be prevented. In the medical field, the treatment and surgeries would be precise and mostly flawless. The cons include, as robots are emotionless, we might find it hard to make them apprehend values, sentiments, and etc. Robots might be misused by a few people with a dim view, which needs to be restrained by spreading awareness, and the cost to build and manage robots is really expensive. But still, a change is inevitable. Let's all be optimistic. I strongly believe that AI is the future of work. Humans have programmed AI for a better future, and now AI has programmed a better future for humans. Thank you.
Thank you, Gayatri, for this amazing insight. I think it would be also cool then to connect what you just said in the future talks as well. So I make this invitation for the other speakers. If you want to take a little bit of this topic as well, Not because it's not a panel, but feel free to do it, okay? If you want to make any kind of comment as well, I think it's a good connection. So right now we're going to the next talk.
Yeah, we have Martin.
We have Martin here with us.
Also from People Tree, so from the same company as Brett before, and one of the companies that are giving us a stronger support and with whom it's very good to be working with. So Martin, you can share your screen. I will make you a presenter.
And I just wanted to add, the support is also like in terms of knowledge. So a lot of the things we do and that we know that it's related to people development is because of them as well. As you could see with Brad speaking, right? Okay.
Okay, so Martin, we can see your screen. I guess you're ready to go. Just unmute yourself and you can start speaking.
We can hear you.
Okay. All right, great. Thanks a lot for the invitation. It's always fun to chat with you guys and share some of the things that we've learned and put together. So Anesh Shabam gave me this topic. It wasn't quite this topic. It was the evolution of learning, and I think he said something about the numbers and what the numbers say about people and learning. So I thought, okay, we'll keep a lot of numbers in here, but I wanted to start off by paralleling learning and how learning takes place in organizations with how light, or at least access to light, has evolved over the ages. And the reason why I'm saying let's take a look at the evolution of light is because light and learning are so intimately connected. If we have a look at, or think back to Brett's presentation, when people were primarily focusing on trying to feed themselves, pretty much you could do that during the day. And there's so much effort consumed just in terms of survival that there was very little time for learning. So very often when you came back from the fields or whatever, that was the opportunity you had to maybe read something or learn from somebody else. So light and learning were intimately connected. But if you have a look at how much light 60 hours of labor could buy, in 1800, you'd have to work for 1.5 weeks, basically, or given the sort of hours and child labor things, probably maybe just a 60-hour week, just to buy one tallow candle to get 10 minutes of light. Now, 60 hours of labor on average will buy you 52 years of light. So with this connection between light and learning, you would think that with the unbelievably cheap cost of light and the amount of time that we would have available to learn, that we would be doing a lot more learning. But what are we actually doing with all of that extra time that we could have to learn? Here's some stats about what knowledge workers actually do with their time. Close to 30% is just reading and answering emails. 19% looking for information to provide to the people that you're responding to about those emails. 14% about communicating internally with other people so that they can send you emails in future, and about 40% actually doing the job that you're probably paid to do. So in an organization, when we're asking people to learn, what we're really doing is we're asking them to carve out a tiny little fraction of that time, which you would think, when you look at the scale, wouldn't really be that difficult. But actually, when you have a look at how the learning paradigm has changed, from historically when people needed books and libraries, and so learning was really a privilege of the rich. Now, has it really changed that much? All we've really done is just taken the same information, just digitized it, and now what we have is thousands and thousands of libraries that are accessible. So now the problem is not so much access to information, the problem actually is information itself. And in the book, The Attention Economy by Davenport and Beck, what they refer to is, what does information consume? Well, it consumes attention. And the problem with that is that a wealth of information creates a poverty of attention. So the real challenge then with learning is, how do we get your attention? Because that's basically what we're looking at. I don't know if you can see that little pulsing logo, but that's one of those tricks, in terms of visual attention to try and grab your attention. May or may not have come through. But if we want to have a look at something that's a lot less subtle than a pulsing logo in the corner of a slide, we should probably have a look at Netflix. They are masters of attention. Just how good are they at gaining your attention? Well, in 2020, there was a research project that was done, and they discovered that after looking at 320,000 Americans, they spent 612 hours watching Netflix. 612 hours. That's effectively 15 working weeks. That's like spending 3 months watching Netflix. If you're curious what most people are watching, The Office. Okay, so what can we learn from Netflix in terms of structuring a learning environment and trying to design an organization that helps people to learn better? Well, the first thing we should take a look at, and this is where we can get into the numbers, what percentage of learning that takes place is self-directed? What percentage of learning resources are actually utilized? So think about that big library that I showed you earlier on. How many of those books actually get taken out? And what percentage of learning activities have an impact and actually change behavior, since that's often what we're trying to look for? Well, here's some data that we pulled from a client of ours to try and illustrate the challenge that they had from a learning perspective. And I'm going to go through this particular slide and explain what do these numbers tell us. On the left-hand side of the slide, you can see where we got this data from was we have an application that allows people to identify the things that they need to work on. They identify them, put them in the development plan, and then managers approve those resources. So things like conference attendance, internal programs, external programs, job rotation, e-learning, etc. So on the left-hand side, you can see what was requested and what was approved. And on the right-hand side, you can see what was actually completed. So let me break those numbers down for you. There's 3 key stories that these numbers tell us. First of all, if we look at how many requests for training and development were actually submitted, 1,900. 600 of them were still pending at the end of the year. 1,300 were approved. So that means out of all the work that we did to help people figure out what it is that they needed to work on and what sort of development they should do, only 1 in 3 requests were actually approved. It gets worse though. Out of the 1 in 3 requests that were approved, less than half of them were actually completed. If we have a look at which ones were completed, well, generally we can break them up into the top ones, which I would consider to be low impact learning events. Conference attendance, internal academy programs, very often those things are theoretical. Conference attendance is, interesting, but mostly social. This was sort of prior to COVID. So if we look at this group, there were 373 people who attended some type of program or conference, versus high impact learning interventions, executive coaching and mentoring, where there were just 10 people who actually attended, who had access to that type of learning experience. So it's very easy to deliver low impact, low effort kind of experiences from a learning perspective. It's far more difficult to deliver high impact ones. And then the last thing is the solution to all problems is not e-learning, right? Self-directed learning. There were over 160 people who applied, 110 that were approved, and just 33 that actually completed any form of e-learning in this particular sample group. This group is fairly small that I'm showing you here just for the sake of illustration. We actually had a look at 17,000 online courses that were completed. Less than 2% of them had anything to do with behavioral change. By far, the bulk of them were compliance-driven training around compliance legislation. In fact, I think the most popular course that was completed was how to change a password. So essentially, where we've come to is that we have a problem where we have an overload of information, a chronic shortage of attention, and a real need for people to learn things. Because as Brett had mentioned, in terms of where we're at in the world of work, we have access to plenty of knowledge, we have access to plenty of tools, and we have access to plenty of markets. So how can we create a very personalized, relevant, and high-value learning experience, but one that's scalable? So we think that there's essentially 3 new capabilities that need to be added to any organization's learning and development function. The first one is curation. So curation is about somebody actually sorting out the wheat from the chaff, sorting out the good stuff. And if you have a look at Netflix, if they kept sending you something that was absolute garbage, chances are you wouldn't be watching it. So although you can use algorithms there, you still can only use an algorithm to sort the content that's there. So the first thing that we'd need to have a look at is curate good quality learning resources. If you're going to get somebody to commit their time, make sure that they feel that it was worth committing it. The second capability is how to customize that learning for that person. So we're talking about hyper-personalized learning experiences for individuals. And then the third thing that we need to do is we need to find a way to connect people with that learning experience in some way. So I want you to imagine this. We applied this, then that approach. So IFTTT approach, kind of a simple logic switch. But here's what learning could look like. Clark Kent, before he discovers his Kal-El and has any superpowers, has identified that his highest development priority is time management. He prefers watching videos to reading short stories or reading material or literature. The maximum time he would like to commit is 10 minutes a week. And he's got time on a Tuesday morning when he goes to gym. Now imagine that an organization with that information is then able to say, send Clark the highest rated learning resource, which is a video on time management with a duration of less than 10 minutes on a Tuesday morning. So immediately what we've done, we've now taken this and we've identified something that is the content any good. Just don't send him some arbitrary time management video. Make sure that it's a high impact thing that people value. We understand that that's how you would like to consume it. So we're narrowing it down. People like to do things they like to do and don't want to do anything that is going to require more than a minimum amount of effort. And most often people have a small window of time in which they can do something. We just need to identify that time. So how do we actually take this into an organization and make it work? Well, there's basically 4 quadrants. It first starts with the data. The first thing we've got to do is we need data to understand who we're dealing with, what it is that's important, and what it is that they need to learn. That data feeds applications. So then we need to build a technology platform. We need to design it, build it, and integrate it so that it is a part of that person's everyday experience. It can't be something you can only access on the internet at work. It shouldn't be only desktop. It should be mobile first. It should be using every type of technology that we have that is accessible and easy to use for the person who is going to need to access that learning content. The third thing is obviously the content. We need to collate, we need to codify, and we need to quality check that content. Don't push out garbage. It will push away learners. And then the last thing we need to do is build a communication strategy. Design communications that says, this is how we drive engagement. This is how we create a feedback loop. And this is how we get people to pay attention to a little bit of knowledge in the time that they can make available so that they can boost their productivity and their knowledge of how to do the job that they're doing better. If we can get that right, there's a much better chance that organizations will thrive. And going back to Brett's presentation there, essentially we have all the information we need, we have the tools that we need, and we have an infinite, almost infinite number of markets. What we need to do from a learning point of view is connect those 3 things together. Okay. That's it.
Thank you, Martin. You were really attentive.
Sorry, we were let me just.
We were really attentive to your presentation, looking at all the data. Like it's a lot, you know, like to focus and to how do you say to assimilate actually. But it makes a lot of sense. So everything you just say, Brett and you, Basically, like we have to take in consideration the people in our corporations, but also with the goals of that corporation. I think that's the main message, even though there's of course a lot of things to that as well. So from now on, we will still be speaking about people, and I think this is a good connection because we will go to
Let
Valerie.
me just add that I love the fun fact of the show that people watch the most while at home was actually The Office. What? Like, I loved it. And I'm actually addicted to The Office right now at this time of my life, so I can totally understand that. But really cool presentation. Thank you, Martin.
The storytelling.
The storytelling, everything was really good.
No, like, so, Marta, I can say even more things about the presentation, like the span of attention, so like accurate, you know. It's an attention market now. It's like people fight for your attention for like 5 seconds of your time scrolling into Instagram. But as we were speaking, so we will make the connection about people and human talent. So we just spoke about how human talent is dealt with in corporations, and now we go to Valerie. And yes, and the presentation of like how a personal brand can add to a corporate brand as well. So also focusing on the individuals. Valerie, the stage is yours. Thank you so much for being here with us, and we're really looking forward to hear you.
Your presentation is already here, so you just need to open your camera and unmute yourself, and you're ready to go. Hi, Valerie. Are you ready to start?
Okay, we just give us a minute. Yes.
In the meantime, we can check if people are on YouTube.
Yes, we are having some comments on YouTube.
Valerie is here, but now we can comments anyway.
Yeah, so you can be prepared a little bit more. So, Yang, for example, says brilliant point of view of Gayatri was short but sweet, to the point. Wealth of information creates a poverty of attention. This is a quote from Martin, which was highlighted on the chat as well. And some thumbs up and good points. So let's continue. People are enjoying.
People are enjoying. All right, so Valerie, thank you for joining. Your presentation is here. You're already a presenter, so you can start whenever you're ready. Okay, just unmute yourself and you're good to go. You're muted. Sorry.
Can I just go and close the door quickly? I'm not online, right? Okay.
The things we need to do just to have the best presentation possible.
Of course, after that New Zealand have you seen that?
Yeah. All right. Everything good? Good to go?
Yeah, I think so. Sorry, I was going to meditate a bit.
So after this, to distress.
Tell me when it's shooting and I'll be ready to go.
You can go as soon as you're ready. Okay.
Hi everyone, thank you very much for being here, and thank you to the Get On Board team to host this event. So today we're going to see what is 21st century branding. But before we start with this, the first question is, why do we need branding and what actually is branding? So creating a brand is not something new. You actually have a brand. You just maybe are not aware of it, but we're all born branded. For example, when you're a baby, people are going to already judge, you know, who you are, what your temper is, even if you don't speak yet. whichever move you make, you will be branded, whether you want it or not. So the most important is to start with taking control of your own brand, and then you can start to promote it. So why is this important? It's because when you have a powerful brand, it can change everything in your life. It can help in your career, it can help you build a business, and it can also help you network. So let's have a look at the career. For example, if you are looking for a job, or if you are looking to be promoted in the company you work for, nowadays people are always going to Google you, whether you want it or not. From the moment they've got your name, the first thing they're going to do is check on the internet where you are, what's your social media profile, do you have anything on Google, like press article, podcast, anything. So more you build your reputation and more you gain credibility, and more people can trust you. And it can also help the company you're working for. For example, if you stand for your company, you might want to promote it, but your profile can be a great advantage for the company you work for, and it can then help you apply for new opportunities within the company you are in or outside. It can also help you with your business. So if you plan to build a business, or if you already have a business, it will help improve your marketing. I have many clients who come to me who have already paid a lot of money for marketing, but they don't get enough engagement or sales because the trust is not there. And even if they are trustworthy, who am I to say, hey, trust me? And who are you to say it as well? So as Jeff Bezos said, he said something like, your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. So if you have reviews, if you have appearance online or podcasters who trusted you to interview you, that will help building that trust. And so then it will help for your marketing, your sales, and it will also help you gain authority in the market. So you can have a great business, but another 50 people might have the same type of great business. And even if you're slightly different, if it's not expressed out there, nobody will understand it. Nobody's in your mind to know what is special. You have to put it out there. And to have a powerful brand will also help you for networking. So for example, if you're going to attend an event, these days it's often going to be online. So very often now people go on LinkedIn and click the event they want to attend. The other attendees can see you, they can see your profile, what you've done, they can Google you, and they can decide to meet you before the event. Or they will spot you at the event knowing that you were there, and vice versa. So it can help you to quickly meet the right people rather than having to browse during the event. You can be spotted before. And it also helps you cultivate your relationships, because people will know where to find you. So having a powerful brand can be super helpful. So today we're talking about 21st century branding. So why do we say 21st century branding? Because branding has been existing for centuries, actually thousands of years. But 21st century branding is different, and particularly different to the 20th century branding. 20th century branding was all about power, about money, about showing off. And if you look at, for example, celebrities who were famous during the 20th century and who are still here in the 21st century, you will notice that their way of branding is quite different. Their messaging is different. And what they're interested in is different as well. And brands as well, if you look at the brands of the previous century, the way they express their brand was very different to the way they express it in this century. So let's clarify this. So first, in this century, the connectivity is huge. we're speaking about 4.5 billion, over 4.5 billion users on the internet, which is a huge pool of opportunities. That means 4.5 billion of people can see you on the internet. So it's a very big opportunity. So now it's not only celebrities or politicians or big businesses who can promote themselves, everyone can. And the prediction for 2030 is that most of the planet will be able to use the internet. So that's a huge opportunity. It's got also its disadvantages, because more opportunity means more opportunity, not just for you, but for everyone else. So the competitiveness is huge as well. I'm sure some of you have noticed already when you post something, sometimes it's super interesting, but nobody notices it. And why? Because there's another post that might be stronger. And also the algorithm pick up on certain keywords. And so it can feel like overloading to have to brand yourself, but to reassure you, you've got something that nobody else has, and the best gift you have is yourself. And why is it yourself? Because your personality is unique. Your brand personality is unique. So what is your brand personality? Your brand personality is who you are. It's so who you are. So your personality, the way you speak, the way you look, the way you feel, the way you make people feel is who you are. And then you have your story that combines with who you are today. So it's very unlikely you're going to have another person who has the same background, the same parents, the same date of birth, the same school, everything that made this person today. It's very unlikely you're going to find someone who is exactly like you. And then if you add up your expertise on top of it, I can guarantee you are definitely unique. And we even see it with twins. There's always something that makes a difference. So your brand personality is what will allow you to empower others and also empower yourself, because that's where you are unique. Everyone can have the same way of marketing. Everyone can have the same way of responding to interviews, but the personality you have is yours. So no one can take that from you. And so your personality can also help you to engage other people and to also influence. So it's what really will make you stand out. And there's a third factor about the 21st century, is that the world is changing. So putting out there who you are is great, but you have to keep in mind as well that people have other concerns in their mind. So for example, in this century, we're experiencing the pandemic big time, and there will be others. And also the robotization is increasing, which there is another session today about this. There is a big fear that robotization will take over jobs. So yes, it will help saving the planet, certainly, but it will also take over a lot of jobs. And we have also the climate change issue. So that means branding yourself is good, but if you don't consider other people's concerns, if you don't have that empathy, how can you expect people to have empathy for you? So the world needs heroes. So not just heroes who are doing fantastic things, but heroes who are doing things for others. So if you think of others, you're more likely that others will think about you. Did you know that 70% of millennials would pay more to buy from a brand with a purpose? So that's why when you see now all the big brands are starting to to promote more diversity. They're also standing up for climate change because they have understood that that is how the public will be attracted. But also, to some degrees, in fairness, some big brands also care about the real issues. Not all big brands are selfish. And there's also 90% of the millennials who are saying that it is important for brands to support social issues, and 79% seek out companies that make a difference, whether it's to apply for a job or whether it's to buy from. For example, besides Stunning Brand, I have also an organization which is promoting humanitarian issues and social issues for arts and music. And most of our volunteers are university students. And the impressive thing, just recently this summer, we were preparing an event, and most of our students prefer to be unpaid volunteers with us than actually going for a paid job, which is pretty incredible because in my generation, everybody was thinking about money. But this generation is very different. And so it's very hopeful, but it also means when you build your brand, you have to consider this factor of making a social impact. So in terms of having a great 21st century brand personality, well, you've got it already. Unique personality, for sure you have it. Unique story, you have it. Being competent, if you don't have it yet, you're going to build experience very soon. And strong values, everyone has it as well. Even the people you would think are the most evil will have one strong value somewhere. It could be integrity, it could be, but there is always some values that people have. So you have already a strong brand personality. So how do you start to build your public brand? Well, first you need to analyze your brand personality, make sure that what you're going to put out there is you. Don't try to put out there someone you're not, because the truth always comes out at some point. Might be also at your most successful time. So that's the last thing you want to do, is not be yourself. So analyze yourself or get people to help you to see, you know, if you is what they see. That is very important before you even build your brand identity. The difference between your brand personality and your brand identity is, for example, your brand personality is you. If you go to a party, you can't dress, someone can't suggest you some clothes, if they don't know you. Otherwise, they're going to put you into the wrong clothes and you're not going to be comfortable at the party. Well, your brand personality is you, your brand identity is your clothes. So your brand identity will be, for example, the colors you're using, the tone you're going to have in your messaging. And once we know your brand personality, then we know what kind of color psychology will work with it, what kind of photograph will work with you. We will also know what kind of messaging. Does it have to be a long message? Does it have to be complex? Does it have to be simple? Does it have to have humor? So these factors are very important because that's how people will see you from the outside. And then once you've got this, you can assess how your brand positioning will be and assert it as well. So you will do your competitive analysis. Even for personal branding, you will find, 10 people out there who have the same type of brand as you, and see what are the differences, where are your strong points, and that will help you build your brand strategy and make it more effective. And then the next thing, once you have trained with this, you can start to be creative, and that's the fun part. You can start to, take action on something that nobody else has taken action on before, who has a similar brand to you, or you. That's the time you can start to be creative, to give yourself a competitive advantage. And the thing that I'm was suggesting earlier on, and I'm suggesting it to all my clients, is to make a social impact. First, it will improve your brand, but also you will contribute to a better world. If we don't live in a better world, then there's no point of branding, because the economy will be down, or we won't have any way to survive with climate change. So it is important that the entire humanity makes an effort in terms of making a social impact. And making a social impact doesn't mean you have to pay a fortune for it. It could be by the way you're going to behave. You know, some people decide to go vegetarian or vegan and shout it, and everybody knows that this person is caring about the planet. Or it could be simply you put a percentage of your income or your business income into a charity. It could be all sorts of social impact. There's a lot of things that are needed to help, which are not which are very cost efficient. And if you make a social impact, well, first it will give you more confidence, but also it will give more confidence to others, and you will feel good because you're doing something good, and that energy will be implemented in your brand. And something that I'm advising to everyone is to think of cross-cultural branding. Remember that once you're on the internet, everyone can see you. Even if you operate only at the national level, someone at the other side of the world might bump into your brand and make a comment, because everything is public these days. So think of other cultures, how they might feel about your messaging, because sometimes things are not interpreted the same way from one country to another. And if you've got all these 5 points we went through, this will definitely help you grow your brand. The most precious advice I can give you is be the leader you wish to see in the world. Be yourself, but also think of who you want to be tomorrow. If you are not who you want to be tomorrow, you will struggle to get there. So if today you are a student and tomorrow you want to be a CEO, you need to start to study CEOs and start to understand, okay, what is important? How do I have to be? Because people will feel, no matter what messaging you put out, people will feel who you are from the moment you speak publicly. And to have a successful business, you will eventually, 90% of businesses, not everyone, need to have sometime public speaking, unless you're a writer or you do something that is behind the scene. But many businesses now require physical presence. So remember to be yourself, but also remember to think of what kind of leaders, what kind of brand you wish to become, and what internal work needs to be done. And the last thing is, don't hesitate to ask for help. So if you can't afford brand consultancy, for example, or copywriting, or people to help you, at least on your brand personality, try to get some help of people to help you build your brand. Ask them when you write your own messaging, ask them, how does this feel? How does this message feel for you? What does it mean to you? Because it might not be what you have in your head. People may have a completely different perception. So it's always important to get feedback, which doesn't mean you have to be different to who you are, but at least you get an idea of how you're being perceived, and you either go with it or you work on it. So don't hesitate to ask for help. So thank you very much for attending this session. I hope it was useful, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us at stunningbrand.com. You can ask for me, and someone will forward the email. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Valerie. This was amazing. Like, You were saying now at the end that you wish this was useful. It was amazing. Like we had one of our team members just noting, like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. Like we can do this strategy. So
the part where you were saying that millennials nowadays, like 70% of people, I think, only buy from like brands that have a purpose, or they fight for some social cause. Like we as millennials, we identify as that. We are just discussing with each other as you were speaking that, yeah, that's true, and we are the living proof of that is true.
Like we don't want to spend money, but when we do, we want to do it with a purpose, right? Not
Exactly.
just to buy the thing, but also to help everything like around us, and that
and that's why you have so many great speakers. It's definitely connected with I mean, not speaking about me, speaking about the other speakers. But that's to do with the intention, I think.
Yeah, thank you so much for your
Thank
time
you.
and for this amazing talk. This will be available for other people to see, fortunately.
And thank you very much for putting this together.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Okay,
so moving to the next talk, we have Rolf Van Haren with us today. He is the author of the book Meaningful Organizations, and is going to give us a presentation on what can artificial intelligence do for your locked talent. So Rolf, welcome. I have made you a presenter. You can share your screen, you can open your camera, and you can start talking to us and give us your presentation.
And then
I'm unmuted. That's beautiful. Hello. I've got a little bit of a message. I'm sitting in a car. I just came from the sailboat. I just sailed a boat for.
I was planning on asking you about that. How was that trip?
I had an amazing vacation until now, but it's only finished for two-thirds. So we are again back at a camping zone, and we're going to stay another week at the water in Holland. So it's like beautiful. So I built this PowerPoint presentation yesterday with all the latest insights. And so I'm sitting in a car. It's a super small Seat Ibiza kind of car. So I'm a little bit. It's also a little bit foggy over here, but the presentation is good enough to be presented. So that's nice.
Yeah. And
it's fine.
It's a picture of work. It's remote, working from anywhere.
Definitely, I'm totally digital nomad. It's like amazing. I made a photo. I sent it to the team because my team is partly in Ibiza, Italy, Canada, Germany, and Holland. And I sent a picture while I was sitting behind the laptop, sitting in the, how do you say it in English, in the back of the boat, while looking over the lake, and just the sails were hanging out. It was totally chill. I said, well, this is the life, So Digital Nomad 2.0 totally managed to do that. Let's see. Thank you for the introduction. I will seek how I get my presentation on the go. There it goes. So I think that you can see the presentation now.
Yeah.
That's super nice.
Yeah, great society.
Yes. So shall I just begin?
If you're ready.
Yeah, definitely. If you can just not look at the webcam and just look at the presentation, I think you've got a really good thing going on. So yeah, well, thank you for the invitation to present something today. Thank you again. In I think 2009, I have written a book with a good friend of mine, Peter Dahlmeier. He's an NLP transactional analyst, system worker, coach, and entrepreneur. He has a big academy in Holland in regard of creating aware professionals. And me from the side of innovation and entrepreneurship and IT, thought with him to create a book in which he more or less focused on the personal meaningfulness, and I was more or less focusing on the organizational meaningfulness. And this, I think we had a dialogue about a few weeks ago, I don't know. And we said, well, let's make a presentation for this session. So I create, in my best remembrance of that session, a presentation. So the Upgrade Society is my company, and the Upgrade Society does a few things which I'm going to come back on later at the end of the presentation. But this presentation is about creating meaning for people in organizations. So there we go. If it works, un momento. So let's see. So my name is Rolf Van Haren. I love yoga, fitness, sailing. My girlfriend, obviously, creating impact, meaningful dialogues, and technology. And one of my core belief is there are always options to achieve the things you want to achieve, and your mind is really the limiting factor. And I think in my life, I can only say that I think several times life proved me that this belief was the right belief. I started when I was 19 in the industrial park, and I was sawing plates for construction. I didn't have any diploma, and now I'm how old am I now? 42, and I'm having my own organization with a team of 8 people, 2 or 3 big investors, 4 investors in total, but one is just for the form. Not for the money. So big investors in creating an artificial intelligence platform to match people with. And I think if you are able to challenge yourself over and over again and to really look behind the horizon. So you can see in the back of me when I'm steering this vacation, this photo is from the day before yesterday. If you can steer to the horizon and even think about what's behind the horizon, then you can achieve anything that you want. But you have to set your mind to it. It's a little bit an open door, but still it's just how it works. So it's law of attraction all over again. I'm I reside in Holland, in Eindhoven. My background is Dutch, so I grew up in Nijmegen. That's also a city in Holland. So the Upgrade Society, creating thriving and meaningful organizations by bringing the right people together in optimal teams while working on strategy and professional growth. When I was working I did like 10 years in IT. I started after my study in the organization that I just told about. I hadn't a diploma, and I just started by starting working on the help desk because I just wanted to do something different than I did, and I thought, well, I'm going to work on the help desk, and that I was just good enough with computers, like the 1999. So the 2000 millennium bubble was there, so everybody who could touch the mouse was able to be an IT professional. So I was definitely one example of that. And I started to work in a company, Centric. It's a big IT company in Holland, and I worked myself up to the level of service delivery manager. I did my Prince 2, my ETIL, my Microsoft certified engineering, and I worked for, I think, 6 years over there. And I found out when managing teams that it was really hard to find the right people amongst those teams to work together, and that if I was looking for expertise within those teams, I knew what kind of capabilities I was looking for, what they should be able to do, but no one was really looking if somebody was really happy with what they were doing. So I started to follow a course, NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. There's nothing IT-ish, that's purely semi-psychology. Maybe some of you know Anthony Robbins, but he's one of the secondary ground layers of NLP. Then I did some systemical familiar constellations. So that's like organizational constellations. That's looking on a holistic way to teams. And I did some transactional analysis, and that's about how you relate to the other person in an individual situation. And I brought this technology, which is also technology. I brought these philosophies and those models together, and I thought, how cool would it be if I could find the right people on several levels amongst the whole organizations to work on a specific project. And I just know like 20 people in my team, but I don't know the other 900 people that are working in our organization. Back then, this was a beautiful dream, but there was no technology available to operate this. So I just let this go, and I was thinking, well, it should be super cool if we could create them. Back then, we had SharePoint, of the most innovative technology. Well, SharePoint is not that innovative, so I can broadly say. And I think in the end, now we've got artificial intelligence, and this dream of mine, like 15 years ago, now slowly comes to life. So this is the Upgrade Society. Is all about using this technology to bring the people together who want to work on a personal level and on the organizational level. Or the G is a little bit split, so there's organizational goals in synergy together. So how are you going to achieve this? Becoming meaningful 101. Becoming meaningful is all about what brings people together. So I think if you look at the individual level, it's about relevant, impactful activities. That could be a project, that could be a event, that could be whatever has to be. That can be also a Zoom call or whatever. So it should be an impactful activity. And when is something an impactful activity? If it's valued by something somebody can do. So there should be a active energy amongst this activity. The ability to support and to learn by skills. So it's super nice if you listen to the session and that you know a little bit about meaningful, but I hope that you're also learning a little bit of this session. But it's also nice if you already know something about this topic, because then you can really entangle yourself with the topic. So it's ability to support, to maybe help even, maybe this event by giving feedback or whatever, but also by learning something in it that really gives this entangled feeling, this engaged feeling. So the intrinsic motivation, a lot of people are talking about this, but what is really intrinsic? For me, intrinsic, and that's really subjective, is about what really touches me on my personal level. So if I'm looking at the organization that I'm building with my startup, with the AI, then my intrinsic motivation is by the knowledge that I have that the first really team that you become a member of is your family that you came from. So the family that you are born in and grew up in, this is basically the first team that you are a member of. This maybe a little bit, sounds a little bit silly, but already here you will find out what kind of motivation you find to work with other people, or what kind of skills you put into place to make a certain activity successful. And also maybe you have encountered some challenging moments in your family, then this will become later in your team also an element that maybe becomes a little bit challenging. So for instance, if you have a really dominant father that really wants to overarch you and never gives you any space to develop your own identity, then it might be an issue for you to work in a team later on in your life with a super yeah, a little bit of narcissistic personality, or somebody who's really out there. Then you can really maybe shrink yourself into, oh, I just want to step out of this conversation with a person, or maybe you're going to make yourself bigger and bolder, and there's got to be a little bit of a fight. So the intrinsic motivation to connect on a personal level is next to the intrinsic motivation of a topic that you really love. So for instance, the Sustainable Development Goals. If you really want to work on peace on land, or peace or beautiful oceans, this is also intrinsic. So intrinsic has multiple levels to look at it, I think, and it's on the personal level, as we say it in transactional analysis, more a relation contract. So how are you related to the other person? Next to what kind of topic do you really like to work on? Next to what kind of values do you bring in this dynamic to work with the other person? So the right person on identity level is really important, because if a set of people have to work together or to achieve more than they just can achieve by themselves, then it's really important to know what kind of persons you are bringing together. Just bringing some people who have knowledge about PHP development is not enough to make a good synergy within a team. You need to know what kind of person it is, and this is something definitely, and I'm going to show later in the presentation, we are trying to tackle with AI. Purpose, meaning. So the Sustainable Development Goals could be a element of purpose of meaning, but it's just a part of the purpose of meaning. Purpose of meaning is also a little bit of a buzzword. So what is the purpose of or meaning? I don't necessarily think everybody knows. I just listened to the speaker before me. Also, there it's about what kind of impact you want to make on a personal level, on organizational level. So I think it's really out there that we need to change the way we do things. And the way we do things. So I think the how is even getting more important, and the who and the how is more important than the why or what. So we can talk endlessly about what kind of why. So why is the reason that you want to do it? Well, okay, it's like 50 degrees in Canada. I don't have to say anything more because it's like insane. We need to take back the CO2 or whatever. So that's obvious. But how you're going to do this is really based on your belief system. It's really based on where did you came from? What is your culture? And I think the how and the who are becoming more and more important. So I don't think the what is super clear. We have to solve the issues on the world. The why is super clear because otherwise we don't have a place anymore to live, for instance. But the how is the signature of how you have learned in your life to make action, or maybe just to totally freeze and not to come in action at all. So I think in the how is really related to who you are as a person. The how tells really who you are. So a purpose of meaning, I think it's super interesting to more and more to focus on how people are doing this to gain their access to their purpose or meaning. And what is this purpose or meaning? I think in the end, it's all about a feeling of belonging, a feeling of connectiveness, a feeling of when I sit on my sailing boat, I'm sailing across the IJsselmeer. It's a big lake in Holland, and I'm sailing over there. My purpose and meaning is really to be totally bliss with the fact that my girlfriend is sitting next to me, enjoying this sailing for the first time in her life while doing with Balfour 5. So that's really heavy. That she was totally almost puking over the board, but she was still happy. So that's cool. And then I think, well, this is so super cool. I love this life. I love being on the water, being in nature, with the wind, with the boat, with everything. And then, well, it doesn't take that much if you take out of the equation that we need a whole boat for it and wind and water. It doesn't take that much to be happy, to feel connected. And that's my purpose, to feel connected and to in my working sphere to add value to other people's purpose and meaning, to let them experience this connectiveness. So that's my personal purpose of meaning. And how I do this really says anything about who I am, of what I do. So the reason that I'm sitting in the middle of my vacation doing this presentation, what does this say about me? This says that I want to take the opportunity to bring my story into the ether and to the out there, to put it out there and to see what kind of reflections there may come. So how to capture this for your organizational growth, this individual level of people. Organizational context is all about clear and transparent portfolio management. It's all about safe and secure learning contexts. It's all about challenge-based learning and talent development. It's all about connection by being and doing. I see a lot of companies are totally focused on in being or on doing. So they are totally in like a meditating state and talking all over again how the world should change, but they are actually not doing that much, or are totally into the doing and are totally not focused on the being. So it's all about finding connection between those two, like yin or yang, whatever you want to call it. It's all about feminine leadership meets masculine leadership. I think being and doing hand in hand in the right synergy is the essence of balance on this world. So we really should be reflective if we are creating products from what kind of position of ourselves. Is this from an ego position or a more eco position? Are we creating these products and is it circular? Is it recyclable? Is it, and if we're just creating products because we're gonna make more money, that's just totally only the doing part and not the being part. Then we are not reflecting on our own attitude in regard of how we're going to build products and services. So the right person on the identity level meets corporate philosophy. So it's all about what kind of narrative do you tell each other, and what kind of narrative do you want to believe in with each other, and what kind of narrative can you every day that you get out of bed be aligned with and being fully committed to work on. This could be your own company, this could be a company of somebody else, or this could be multiple projects in a ecosystem approach. But the corporate philosophy is the philosophy that is really touches you on your value, on your deepest intrinsic motivations. In the end, I think an organization in this time frame should have a sustainable impact strategy. That really doesn't make sense if you don't have one, because then I don't know under what kind of stone you are living, but still you need a sustainable impact strategy, because there's employee branding, there's employer branding, there's like sustainability issues. We've got the SDGs, we've got the B Corps, we've got all those companies that are already showing you how it should be done. There's a total war on talent in Holland, and definitely in the higher ranks and also in the lower ranks, even more and more. So to become a meaningful organization means that you talk the language of the talents that you want to attract to your company. And if you're not able to do this, then in the end they will not be coming to work for you, and then in the end, well, your company will never exist longer. because you cannot outsource everything or robotize everything. So it's all about synergy between those two levels. And I think to bring this data-driven, that's a really challenge for organizations. I don't think that really the majority of people within organizations know the sustainable impact strategy of an organization, know the corporate philosophy, know the connection, what they do and how they reflect on it, know what kind of challenges there are to be developing new talents and skills, feel safe and secure within learning, or feel that they know the portfolio that they are running for their objectives to be made. So I think for organizations to become more transparent, or even to work this out for themselves, is the first step into becoming meaningful. So how do we structure a meaningful organization? I really love, and I don't know if people amongst you know the OKR standard of Intel and Google as well. It's about basically, if you want to go to the moon, and you have to build a rocket launcher and a rocket to get there, then there are a lot of key activities and objectives to be met to come to this moon. So the OKR standard is about objective key results, OKR. And objective key results are related to a strategy. So for instance, if we take the sustainable impact strategy, then this sustainable impact strategy, like we want to go totally green, we want to totally go green to the moon, then there are a few objectives. So we need to know what kind of fuel we are going to use, what kind of rocket we are going to use, what kind of launching pad we are going to build, etc., etc. So there are multiple objectives, and amongst the objectives, there are key results, and those key results can be, I'm going to figure out how we can optimize the flow of the rocket so it becomes more sustainable, for instance. So this is a little bit of an example. I hope I make this clear enough. So if you look at this standard, you can easily structure also the personal growth and the organizational strategy with this. In OKRs, there's something like OKRs, so that's the organizational strategy part, but there's also something like the My OKRs, and the My OKRs are always about personal development. So if you look, if you take the picture in the slide before this, it's about, if you want to develop on those 6 levels. You want to develop on a very concrete level by doing interesting new projects, but you want also to grow on a skills level. You want to learn new skills, but also on the growth mindset. That's more on the belief level, but also maybe on a perspective level. What kind of perspectives are there to learn from and to become a more fully reflective professional? So if you want to use the OKR standard, you can easily use this to create a meaningful organization. A key result should be 50% about personal growth, for the opportunity to growth for professionals within the company, but also 50% about the organizational strategy. So an organizational strategy that says, well, we want to create a rocket to go to the moon, but we want to do it totally sustainable, then there's a lot of also a lot of elements that you can define in this project, which are the ability for professionals to grow by. For instance, giving a new presentation in regard of this rocket, or to find new data sets in regard to find out if this rocket can be sustainable in the end. So if somebody has never done anything with data, this could be a super interesting project to use or to learn new skills or new attitudes or new abilities by. So I think a meaningful organization has this both incorporated in their project management. So what we are doing within the Upgrade Society is now working on a outline of project management that is totally new in the way how we describe projects. So we don't want to have a project in which we just prescribe the hard skills and the hard stuff. We want to achieve this and want to do that or whatever. No, we really want to know in depth what kind of ambitions you can achieve by doing this project, what kind of sustainable development goals are being connected to this project. We want to know what kind of personal growth you can with your professional leadership. So those are all, we are now working on this new concept, and it's not really finished. We just have our minimal viable product for the AI matching. and it's still on a skills-based level. But I think in Q2 next year we will have this new form in which I think we're going to disrupt the project management way, because people totally feel seen by the fact that we are also describing what you are going to achieve on a personal level in my OKR. So the core of a meaningful organization, creating sustainable impact for the organization, the people and in it and the ecosystem entangled with it. So we are always looking at an organization as an ecosystem. And an ecosystem is always about all the key partners. It's always about the customer or consumers, the customers, the clients, whatever. So you're together. Well, it's starting to rain, so I hope it's not too disturbing the connection. So together with the whole ecosystem, you are creating this impact. You cannot see or look at one part of the whole supply chain and say, well, we are an organization and we are fully sustainable. That doesn't make sense. You can only say, by everything that we do, connecting with who we are connected, look at it as a 4D blockchain, we are sustainable. And it really says that you have to challenge also your strategic partners to become more sustainable and have a dialogue about what is sustainability for you. So for me, sustainability, eating right, being okay to other people, reflecting a lot of myself, talk with my girlfriend a lot about reflection, to becoming a 0.1 version better tomorrow than I was today, to really be also to be a playful kid, to be playful and to be not too serious, but sometimes really serious. So it's really about bringing every element that I am into play, but on a regulated way. And I think for an organization, that's not really that different. I think in an organization, for instance, for innovation, to do innovation, you need this playful environment in which you can find new ways, be creative, where you just may fail, because that's a big element in corporates that you cannot fail. I think that we are slowly getting in the transition, but far too slow in my belief. So that has everything to do by leaders that are trained to do a very adult, or maybe even a attitude towards their people that are working in their company as a parent, and they're going to say, this is structure, this is how you should do it, blah blah blah. So this is so rigid, this is so strongly set, and then say, well, you should play around in innovation, but that's not nearly an invitation to do that, because everybody feels on the lower part. If it's not a success, you will get wronged for it. So in the end, it's all about really have this conversation about what is meaningful for me, what is meaningful for you, how can we be vulnerable in this, how can we invite our creative selves into the play, and how can we play with each other. And I think in the end, creating meaning is about creativity. And so I think this first step of creating this conversation with each other is the first step of the true transformation. So if you really want to create a meaningful organization, that's basically a systemical approach to develop meaningful products, services, whatever, with everybody involved, all the stakeholders, then it always starts with a conversation. Then it follows up with a process that's really helpful to embed this in an organization scope, and then to form a system that is able to support this and to scale this out. But most of the time, we are just implementing systems, but we never do the conversation part, because that's too painful, it's too direct, it's too whatever it is. I am working with a lot of big ecosystems around the world, with a lot of international leaders, and they see all the same thing happening. They are just implementing new systems, or they do lean startup or design thinking or whatever, but really having this conversation. How are we being vulnerable with each other? How do we really every morning huddle up with each other and say, well, I'm really anxious today because I need to get the service or the product done, or my feature or whatever, but I don't know how, because I'm just totally frozen, because there's so much pressure on my shoulders. I really want to perform, but I don't know how. This is the conversation that you have to facilitate as leaders. And I think we shouldn't, I'm not that old, but I'm old enough to not know what the youth want, while working with a lot of youth in our projects. because we are working with educational as well. But what we do is facilitating the conversation for those professionals, the upcoming professionals, the young professionals. I don't know what the young professional needs. Even when they tell me what they need, I still don't know. And my solutions that I have in my mind are solutions from another era. So I should facilitate the conversation. I should connect those people, those young professionals, so they can think and they can let new insights emerge. So I also don't think we have a climate issue. We have a issue of where we want to go. So if I'm talking with young professionals, then and listen to them what they want, what I tend to hear is that they want prosperity for all, that they want to have a collective awareness, that they want to grow together, they want to be creative, that they want to create an impact for everybody and everybody inclusive. And those things have nothing to do with climate, because if we are going to create this reality with each other, then the climate is automatically taken with the solution. So I don't, if you're looking with a problem mindset to certain topics, it becomes a problem. If you're looking to what you want to let emerge in this world where everything is possible, then maybe there are less problems, but there are more challenges to get there. But in the end, the problems that are created are based on the dreams that people had like 100 years ago. So the CO2 problem is a problem of too hard capitalism and too hard automotive and too much fossil fuels. And those have all a relation to what we wanted like 150 years ago. And those problems have nothing to do with the future we want to let emerge in the upcoming 100 years. So I think we should have a organization in which vulnerability is key and essential in the center and the core. And we should have being sessions of what we want to achieve together, how this dream world should look like with the young professionals and even there before. So we are also talking with kids between 4 and 12, how they see the world and what they want, in what kind of world they want to live. And then we set those OKRs, those objectives, and the key activities. And then we're going to figure out a way to let this reality emerge. And I think in the end, then you can look, well, is then the CO2 issue still a problem? Because CO2, do we want to use fossil fuels in this new era? No, we don't want to use fossil fuels. So the CO2 problem is then solved because we don't want to use fossil fuels. So I think we really need to create a new narrative, a new corporate philosophy. So creating sustainable impact for the organization, the people, and in it, and the ecosystem entangled with it. It's all about people and the ability to co-create from creativity and passion. I think this is what I said earlier. It's all about inviting, facilitating from a certain perspective, and really be open to grow and to let everything that you know go and step into the big unknown, not from the point that you need to know what the answer is, but from the point that you are invited to play and to be creative, and that failure, how busy and how much times we all heard it, that failure is really the only way to do it. We were sailing this last week. I haven't sailed for like 20 years because I always sailed with my father. My father is now in a care center. He just got Alzheimer like nine months ago. They found out he has Alzheimer. And I always sailed with him. So sailing was just me and my father. And while he was the last 5 years was not able to sail anymore and our boat was already gone, I always said, well, someday I'm going to sail with him again. And then my girlfriend asked me, well, why don't you just hire a boat? Because I see that you so totally want to sail. You have sailed for like 14 years in your life with your father. And when I stepped into the ship, whatever, so a boat of 10 meters, that's a big boat for me. I thought, well, this is a big boat. It's a very expensive boat. I hired it. The guy that rented it me had a really big. He really thought he could do that. I was able to pull it off, and I was sailing, and then the front sail snapped yesterday, and I I was a little bit in panic, you know, and I thought, well, what is the worst that can happen right now? The worst that can happen right now is that I have to call the guy. Then it was like 5 Balford, so that's really high windy on the small lake. So there were steep waves. So, and my girlfriend have never sailed anyway, so she was not able to steer the boat. So we were just stamping onto the waves, and I thought, well, this is the moment I can totally go into panic mode, destabilize myself, just to totally deregulate myself, and totally, oh, I'm gonna freak out, I don't know, and be snappy and make a lot of horror on the boat, and also get a little bit in a war zone with my girlfriend. Or I just can just find a way to tap into this, what I would do with my father. And I know that he doesn't know anymore that I'm his son right now, but I just channeled him with me, and I thought, oh, what he would do is he would just lay down his voice. He said, Rolf, it's all will be okay. Just be calm. Go to your bed. Go to the sail. Just drop your whole 100 kilos on the sail and just snap it out of the front axle. So I did this, and it happened. And there's always a way to find solutions in every situation. Well, there's a lot of traffic on the lake. There's a lot of boats around me. There's a girlfriend that's a little bit pukey and she cannot steer the boat. And I don't know either what to do. But I can freak out. But I can also tap into creativity. So I think while we have this big issue in the world of SDGs and CO2 and whatever, those are such a big topics, and easily you can snap into a stress position. And if you do this, you become snappy, and you don't. We tend to point to each other who's to blame. We are all to blame. We all created this situation. We have all created this. Also, this possibility to achieve amazing new insights and new emerging realities. But what we shouldn't do is to go do a lot and just do and create other products and create wind turbines and create, but going into a step of beingness and see, why are we creating what we are creating? Do a step back and just, how is it what we are creating relevant for my highest values and for the things that I want to emerge in my life and in my family or in my company or in my ecosystem? And do we have a good dialogue what we want to let emerge? Because we are emerging the whole day. We are just creating. So it's all about, but where is your intrinsic reasoning? What is your true passion? And how can you co-create from this passion into creativity with other people? And I think this first step is a step that's too less taken. And we should enable ourselves every day to at least 2 times a day, in the morning, in the afternoon, and maybe in the evening as well, to check in with ourselves. What am I creating, and what I am creating, is this relevant to my highest value? And if it's not relevant, just stop creating this reality and create another reality. So you can, every moment you can take another step or another angle or another take on the reality. So if we are looking for the right people with the Upgrade Society, we have a model that is lent from Enneagram. I don't know if you're familiar with it. This is a model that we use to bring the right people together to work with each other. So there's also a little bit of assessment included. There's also in the AI platform, so you can do an assessment and then you find out what kind of person you most are familiar with most of the time, or always. You have 3 numbers that are relevant for you. It's the place that you come from, the place that you are right now, and the place that you're growing to. And this is totally not set in stone, because we in the end really hate assessments, because assessments doesn't say anything. It just says something about the context specific, what kind of role is really in that specific moment relevant for you. So we also use a model like that's broadly used in innovation. That's hipster, helper, hacker, hustler. Those are 4 roles. And Yeah, well, if I'm sitting behind my computer, I'm definitely a hacker because I know a little bit of software development, that kind of stuff. If I put my girlfriend behind my computer, she's not a hacker. But if my girlfriend is behind the P&L of my organization, she has an economic background, she's definitely the hacker, and I'm not even near a hacker. So a context is always deciding what kind of role you are going to play or fulfill, and it's really playing and fulfilling a role. It's not who you are, it's the role that you fulfill. And so it's never set in stone. And most of the time, a project method has its own assessment included, because Belbin or MBTI or whatever, there's so lot of assessments. What we really would want to achieve is that if you do an assessment, that it's not on, okay, I'm yellow or blue or green or whatever, and then just put the form away and never use it again. We want to set up a assessment that you say, hey, cool, I've got this assessment, and now I can be matched on initiatives that are relevant for me on my role, for the part that I can already do very well or the part that I want to develop. So look into the my OKR standard. So the right synergies within a team, I just pointed one out, is always about a triangle. So the 6, the 3, and the 9 can be a super team. It's the peacemaker, the loyalist, and the achiever. If you put those 3 in one team, then and then also the right skills and abilities, then foremost, you know for sure that that you have a team that's going to work. And then again, if people just hate bold guys, and there's a bold person, and you have an association of a bold person that smashes your a window of a car, then you have a negative association. Then still you can be a 9, a 6, and a 3, and you can fully be a good set of people, but still you have this intrinsic reasoning that you hate bold guys, and 9 is a bold guy, then you're not going to work with the bold guy, for instance. So there are a lot of other elements that have this have a potential influence if a team or persons really get along with each other. So then for us to really create meaningful organizations, it's also about the 21st century skills. It's all about giving people, for myself, I hate a little bit the problem solving word, because I think that it is something that my team has created with me, and I had no dips on the problem solving, so it's there. The problem solving for me could be a dream ability, the ability to dream again, or to what I earlier said. If you're looking at a problem mindset to things, then it becomes a problem. If you look at a challenge in which you place in a bigger perspective, you can achieve another version of, or a new scenario in which the problem doesn't even exist. Then that's my word that I would point there. So maybe the ability to dream, this dreaming, whatever. So those 21st century skills are essential for any professional, for any person, for any leader to have an impact in the bigger perspective of an organization, in their lives, in their teams where they're working with. But for sure, it's all about reflection and about getting coached, being trained, finding peers to spar with, being open for other ways to immerse yourself than you have thought before. So it's really about yeah, I think about it's, yeah, the curiosity. Curiosity is a big value. If you are staying curious for your own convictions, that they are super subjective. Your convictions are not the truth. They are just a set of rules you have found some time in your life very handy to use and to become successful in that specific moment. So what I see a lot is that professionals or elder people are still using the convictions that they learned while they were a kid. So the first team that they were a part of, their family, they are still using this set of rules and engagement that they used to use within their family in the current team that they're working with. So they are over and over and over again reliving their own role within the whole team, their family of where they come from. So I think curiosity of how other people think, their model of the world, and to really be playful with it without saying it's right or wrong. It's just a form, a scenario of the truth. That could be really also an essential thing for people to learn. And we are now developing a program also with the AI for how do you say it in English, for teachers for primary schools, to know NLP, systemical work, and TA, to work with little kids and to bring those, because they are curious, but to bring in those tools that they, until the end of times, they can reflect on their own paradigmas. So I think a big miss in the current educational system is the ability to be reflective on your own ego. So the ego becomes your truth, and then again, there's no politics is all about ego, it's all about truths, it's all about projection, it's all about saying I know better than you. Nobody knows anything. So if you can connect on this point of view that you don't know anything, and you can be curious about what you maybe can learn from each other, and you can just connect all the way to the big objective that you want to achieve, to go to the moon on the most sustainable way, then it really doesn't matter how you get there. It's about what you're going to learn while you're getting there, because it's, in the end, how corny it is, it's about the journey, not about the end result. While it's relevant as well, but it's all about the learning experience that you have while going to your objective. So by using tech, we can facilitate meaningfulness. That's our core conviction. And this is exactly what we do at the Upgrade Society. So what we do, I don't do a whole demo, I just let you show this picture. And if you want to know more, we can interact and we can set up a demo or whatever. So what we have is at the left pane, it's a tool that we have created with artificial intelligence. You see a radar, and on this radar you can find initiatives that are relevant based on your personal profile on those 6 levels that I mentioned earlier on the 3rd slide. So on all levels, so the context, what kind of project, what kind of behavior, so what kind of behavior do you want to train yourself in, what kind of skills do you want to develop, what kind of mindset do you want to develop, what kind of role do you want to play in a team, and what kind of impact do you want to make. So those are the 6 levels that are integrated in this platform. And what we do is, by your profile that you set up within 5 minutes, we will be able to find projects that are relevant for you for one, at one hand, to be a part of, to execute a project, and from the other hand, to learn something for yourself in. And when you found people for you in a group, because there's also a social element in the middle pane, you can engage with them socially. So if you found a blip on the radar and you're going to join an initiative, then you will be onboarded in a group. And if you are going to the community part of the platform, you can directly have a dialogue with people that you are matched with, and to find a way to collaborate. So, for instance, we have validated with a Unilever, they have 150k people. How can you find the right people amongst such a big ecosystem? You can only do that by using technology on a new way. So our AI is trained with 80 million profiles and 20 million job descriptions. So we've got a taxonomy of 28 levels deep, and it's a machine learning, so it's autonomous, and it will find the right people based on an X and Y, Y and a Z axle. So it's on a 3D, 4D level. We are looking to profiles. So for instance, if somebody says, well, I'm really good in steering the half truck, I don't know how to say it in English, the thing that can move pallets, for instance, then those are the same skills that you can use to fly a drone, for instance. But this person will never look to projects that are about drones, for instance. But the skills that he have are really relevant for this project, then he will also be matched on projects that are relevant for him in regard of, for instance, for drones or whatever. So we're really looking on a holistic way, agnostic around the profile. Then we match those people and they become in a social context, and they can communicate with each other by the groups. And in the end, we have a LXP, learning experience platform, as our academy, in which we facilitate sustainable development goals, leadership project, learning experiences. It's a social platform in which you can interact with other people while working on a project, on a task. And we can totally set this specified for a user or company, an ecosystem or whatever. So we are now, I think, 7 months live with our platform, and we are now setting ship to get a higher education institute in Holland. We are now validating with 200 students, And we're doing good, I think, because we started a month before I was going on vacation, and they go live while I was gone on vacation. So I just got my mailbox, and it's sometimes there are some questions, but on the whole, it's going well, and we prepped it very well. So 200 students who are working together on internships, on projects, and whatever, to find each other, to be matched with each other, to work in groups with each other, and to use the academy to actively work on knowledge development. And we are now talking, I think, still with 10 big corporates to start proof of values within their companies, and to bring people together working on sustainable innovation. So yeah, well, mainly this was my presentation. So if there are any questions, please send me a mail to rolf@theupgradesociety.com, or check out the website, and you also can use the chat functionality over there. Then I will get a mail as well in the same mailbox. So that's also all good. And yeah, well, then I'm going, I think, to stop sharing. So if there are any questions, I will be glad to answer them as well now.
Thank you, Rolf. Well, regarding the questions, we will just checking the YouTube stream to see if anyone had any questions. Well, there's a lot of comments actually about your flexibility on presenting in the card. They love it.
It's the new standard, yes.
Yes. And also, like one of them said, you love
he loves his girlfriend.
Yeah, because you mentioned it even if you didn't realize it, and that's really like that's personal branding. What
Okay.
said.
Okay, I will send her my love later on and say that they were really, really positive about her, so she will be loving that as well.
Great, thank you. Okay, so
yeah, other than that, no questions, just comments of people saying that they really liked it. It was a very good presentation.
Cool,
they will
thank you.
accumulate the knowledge and maybe get back to you because you're so approachable, and they will be able to see it up.
Super, super.
Thank
Thank you very much. And I will. I think I will go to help my girlfriend with setting up the tent even more. So
yeah, do that. Thank you for taking the time during your vacation to come here and present. And now you can go back and enjoy.
Yeah, thank you. Have a nice day. Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Bye, ciao. Okay, and now we go back to the last panel of the corporate slot. So we're going to speak about AI and blockchain. Is it anti-human or anti-climate? So we're going to bring up the human rights and also the pressing problems of nowadays, which is climate change. We actually had some comments on YouTube this morning about technology is great for economy, but what about human happiness and the environment? So we will hope that this panel will answer some of those questions. We will have Smriti from Earth Bank. She's the head of AI, and also Ermia from Twitter. He's the CEO and co-founder. And of course, moderating, we need an awesome person that knows all of these topics, and no one better than that than Arijit, which is a jack of all trades and master of many, with a lot of years of experience in a lot of fields. He's also the founder of the World Leader Summit, so check it out. We have everyone in the room. Ermia, just here. Okay, just giving a little bit of yes. Welcome, everybody.
And let's begin the last slot.
Yes. So
they know of the corporate.
Of the corporates. We still have a lot to go. So we will give the words to Arijit, and thank you for your time.
Super. Okay. So I think we have a super exciting panel to probably discuss about artificial intelligence and blockchain. And we have here, of course, Ermia and Smriti, two exciting young people doing massive work. And of course, Smriti will more talk about AI, and Ermia, I guess, you'll be more talking about blockchain, right? Am I correct?
Yes.
Super. Okay. So now talking about blockchain, talking about AI, before we go deep dive into the latest generation technology, let me take you back probably 10,000 years back real technology. Probably we forgot all those kind of inputs from the history. But yes, all these latest generation technology that we are talking about, which is not there yet, and probably which is happening now, was there. And that exists in a lot of different kind of culture. And when I'm talking about culture, of course, I'll take a look deep into Indus Valley, which we call as Sindhu as a culture, and we are talking about Mayans. So if we go deep dive into all these kind of technology, all of them talked about one particular thing: neurons. How neurons were actually much more superior in an era we call in Sindhuism as Satya Yuga. There, humankind used to use human neurons, brain powers, to control objects, things, and used to communicate with each other with mind power. If we think time as a circle, of course, we are in specific frame of that timeline. Because we are in this frame, we don't realize past and future. Now, why the hell I'm talking about all these timeline, all these 10,000 years back technology? Because we are probably going towards that. And when we talk about something which is related to today's topic, it's not about only technology. We're going to discuss about humanity. We're going to discuss about how it is impacting our planet. And there are a lot of questions that's happening which exist in earlier days and that's coming up again. Is AI harmful? Is it helpful? Is blockchain a blessing? Or is gonna kill our planet? It is probably increasing the heat or probably taking a lot of job, a lot of questions. But yes, I'm not the specialist today. Specialists are these two young guys. And I believe we're gonna reach in a conclusion in our next 30 to 40 minutes communication drive. So guys, I hope that you guys are ready. But before we go very deep dive into our discussion, for the audience, for everyone, I would love to ask Ermia, and he's from great civilization, the Persian civilization. And Ermia now working in blockchain and working specifically on climate change. Oh my God, Ermia, you're doing a massive work. But for normal people understanding, what is this blockchain? And if you can explain us 5 key industry application of blockchain.
Thank you for inviting me to this event. It's one of my favorite topics, themes. So you asked about blockchain. I was looking for a very simple definition of blockchain because I remember when I was introduced to blockchain, it was like at least 3 or 4 months that even I couldn't understand that one sentence that was defining blockchain. So I tried to simplify it, and I would describe blockchain as a system of recording information in a way that it makes it difficult or impossible to change, hack, or cheat the system. So this is a simple description, but if I want to go like in a more professional way, I would say that blockchain is essentially a digital ledger of transactions that is duplicated and distributed across the entire network of computer systems. So this distributed ledger technology has a number of properties. It is programmable, it is secure, anonymous or pseudonymous, it is time-lapsed, and it's immutable. So basically the difference, like the blockchain is a specific type of database. So it differs in a way that the data in blockchain is chained together. So the new data that we record on blockchain is changed to the previous data that is recorded there. So this simple actually attribute of blockchain has unlocked numerous opportunities. Like the main use case started with Bitcoin, like when we could easily send money to each other. And then after that, Ethereum was introduced as a general purpose blockchain. So when Ethereum came into existence, the concept of smart contracts were introduced. So basically, Ethereum is like an internet, and the smart contracts are like the websites, applications on the internet. But the main difference is that most of these applications are decentralized. They are, I mean, the ownership of these applications are distributed among the community, and users maintain their own privacy data, and they can like easily interact with any of these applications with just one account, one Ethereum account, instead of signing up for each of them. Like when we go to internet and when we want to use one platform, we have to sign up for each of them. But in the world of Ethereum, there is one Ethereum account and you can interact with all of them together. And the concept of borderlessness is there with blockchain. So it doesn't matter where you live, in what jurisdiction you are living, so you can easily have you can easily interact with this world with one set of data, one set of rules that are written in the code.
Yeah, hold on for a second. I guess if we are targeting 5 industry, can we define it like we have healthcare industry as one of the example where you can use blockchain technology? Can we say that decentralized banking system can be done? And of course, we call it as a DeFi system. Can we define that, okay, fine, blockchain can be used in insurance sector? Can we define that blockchain can be used in the defense sector? Can we say that it can be used for calculating and optimizing the entire planetary energy system, which means we can use it in the energy sector as well? So industry specific, we can use blockchain, of course, almost everywhere as per our understanding goes. Is it true, Ermia?
Yes, there are basically theories that we can use blockchain in many areas, but like so far the financial system, like it has shown to us that no, it can practically be used in the financial system, and because financial system is like behind most of these other sectors, so it can impact them as well. Like maybe you have heard of it, decentralized finance is something that is like, they say that it's one of the 3 trends that is disrupting the whole finance. So basically, like when you want to get a loan, you have to do a lot of paperwork, and at the end, maybe they don't give you the loan. So in decentralized finance, no.
Of course.
And you can use it 24/7. So it doesn't matter if it's in the weekend or something. So you can go and get your loan. You can use the exchanges. As you know, some like in the stocks market, you can trade sometimes like in certain hours, in like on blockchain, because like there is no human like managing them. It's all set of codes. So you can use it. And also regarding the healthcare system that you said, of course, yes, when we talk about a distributed ledger system, we can, one important thing in the healthcare system is the data of patients. So, and also the privacy around it, the ownership of these data. So blockchain can help us in this regard, and users can be the real owners of their data. So they can either sell it, like give licenses on top of it, and many use cases. Like we usually limit blockchain to money transfer trading, but it's really more than that. And later on, I will also talk about it, how we ourselves are using it to fight climate change.
100%. We will explore that. But before we jump into that, I will be probably picking up the superwoman among two of the men that we are actually discussing. So we have a superwoman with us, Smriti. And Smriti is, of course, going to enlighten us about, of course, artificial intelligence. But Smriti, I have a different kind of question for you. If we look at Industry 4.0, it includes a lot of variety of technology, and AI plays a very vital part of it. Probably we are using AI without even knowing it. Probably we are surfing net, probably we are using our phone, it listens to us, but we don't realize how these things are happening. So from a layman's point of view, could you please enlighten us what is AI and how exactly, without knowing all those such kind of activities that's going on in the background, how exactly AI is implemented in a very sophisticated way to help humankind?
Yeah, thank you for the introduction, Arijit. First, I'm pretty sick, so I might cough a lot and it might look like I'm dying, but I'll not. So, when it comes to AI, it's basically computers trying to do things that traditionally humans do, or something that requires human intelligence, which means creating algorithms to classify, analyze, and draw predictions from some data that has been acquired for some period of time, depending on what task we want to do. It also involves acting on the data, learning from new data, and improving over time. So it's basically how there's a baby who learns to walk and then eventually grows sometimes into a smart adult, sometimes not. So similarly, like humans, like us, AI is not perfect at this point. Also, one important thing is that the difference between AI and regular programming is that regular programming defines all possible scenarios and only operates within a certain defined scenario. But when it comes to AI, it trains a program for a specific task and then it allows it to further explore and improve on its own. A good AI architecture or a good AI model figures out what to do when you pose some unfamiliar situation in front of it. For example, Microsoft Word, it cannot improve on its own, but facial recognition software can get better at recognizing faces if you use it for a long time, if it's fed or trained on more data. So to apply AI, you need data, a lot of it. AI algorithms are trained using large data sets so that it can identify patterns and make predictions and recommend actions as well. Very similar to how humans work. So it's also very interesting, as you mentioned, that we interact with AI on a daily basis almost, both in our professional and personal lives. So there are certain things like task automation where we use repetitive back office tasks such as invoicing, management reporting, which can be automated to save time and improve accuracy as well. Factories, warehouses, etc. They use AI-powered robots for automation of such tasks. Then we have chatbots right now, almost everywhere, used a lot in healthcare, mental health. There's virtual chatbots like this one called TESS, which is developed by Northwestern University, and it's proved. Sorry.
No worries, no worries.
So sorry. I don't know
You
what
are doing perfect. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You're the powerhouse here. Don't worry about your cough and cold. You're doing perfect. Yes, please continue.
So yeah, basically what we saw with TESS is that people opened up a lot more to a virtual bot as compared to humans, because the stigma surrounding mental health, etc. Then social media, Facebook uses AI, and even to upload photos, etc., identifying faces, tagging names. I'm sorry. Oh shit, no, it's bad. Then
of
another
course, AI is used actually almost everywhere nowadays. And for the audience, if you probably listening, let me tell you something. Whenever we are using any kind of artificial intelligence into our game that we create or the virtual reality application that we are making, game developers are probably the early adopter of artificial intelligence long back in Atari days when Atari started creating interactive application utilizing, of course, those old technologies. And when we are talking about such those old technologies to come into the today's generation of technological aspect and the improvisation, we are nowadays talking about centralized system, we are talking about decentralized system. And when we are talking about such kind of decentralized technologies, of course, it has got a lot of potential to help and achieve the SDGs by probably the conventional approaches to the sustainable development via the benefits of blockchain technology. Now, when I'm making this statement, probably there is a transparency issue which occurs, and that gives a lot of flexibility for technologists, for governments, and probably with the corporates. But this is not a mere statement. Probably this needs a great explanation. So I'll go back to Ermia regarding the same. Could you please explain a little bit about what is decentralized technologies and how SDGs are being impacted by such kind of decentralized technologies and what exactly you guys are doing? I heard that you made an amazing disruption and that has been supported by great guys as well. Could you please tell us about it?
Sure. So decentralization is one of the core values around the blockchain movement, if I want to call it. So like it all started, like significantly started with Bitcoin. So we have witnessed that like over these years, no central entity, government even, had not been able to stop Bitcoin, even though they were like against it because of this kind of disruption that is taking place with the help of that. And also about Ethereum. So these technologies, I mean, the good technologies that we see in this space are usually the decentralized ones. So why is it important to be decentralized? Because these technologies are basically like disrupting the like incentives, the interest of many current stakeholders in the traditional sectors that they're disrupting, and usually they do a lot of like malicious actions like lobbying, I don't know, and many things to stop them. But the reality is that these technologies are important for the future of humanity. They are bringing like really good benefits for us in terms of like freedom of, not freedom in many things, like freedom of speech, freedom in financial, freedom in finance, and many other things. So at the infrastructure level, it's really important these technologies be decentralized. Like by infrastructure, I mean the underlying blockchain, like Bitcoin, like Ethereum, and also in the application level, like those applications that are on top of Ethereum, it's also again important to be decentralized. So there are different ways to become decentralized. One of the most popular ones are like introducing governance tokens. So basically, the users of those applications become the owners of those applications. And there is an interesting phenomena that happens when these platforms become decentralized. Sometimes they do a retroactive airdrop of tokens to the previous users, and it has made many people rich, because initially these governance tokens are not aimed to have value. They are only used for voting, for the future, for the decision making. But because like it goes to the market, it gets value, and those users become sometimes rich. because of these kind of retroactive airdrops. But they use it for voting for the future of those platforms. So maybe you have heard of Uniswap. It's one of the most famous exchanges and decentralized exchanges in crypto. So it did the same, and now no one can stop it. Like there is like this concept that sometimes, for example, the regulators go and talk to the founders or to the company that develops this decentralized exchange. The thing that they can only do is to like stop the website, the domain, but the underlying smart contracts are working there. Like another domain, for example, right now it's uniswap.com. They stop it, and tomorrow, I don't know, Ermia.com comes and says that it connects the interface to the smart contract, and it works again. So this is how decentralization works, and it's really important because it can redesign the incentives for the community, and also it is actually one of the interesting business model. I don't want to say like business model. Maybe I would say like sustainability model for these communities, because most of these technologies are open source. So and this is one of the best things about blockchain technology. Unlike many other technologies, most of the technologies that are being developed in this area are open source, and this is one of the reasons that one sector, like for example DeFi, decentralized finance, is progressing so fast. Like they say that 1 month in DeFi is like 1 or 2 years in the traditional finance, something like that. So we ourselves are using these kind of technologies to try to make an impact, to create a better future. I'm not sure if it's a good time to talk about it, or we can put it for another part of this discussion.
We heard that. Actually, I personally, at least, impressed about what you have done on the top of technology, and of course, the climate change situations that we are facing. And this is probably the right time, Ermia. Why don't you share us what all you are doing regarding climate change? And I believe you are basically a community player. It shows from your eyes, it shows from your talks. So same here. So I'm also a kind of community builder, building a lot of ecosystem, and of course sustainability factors. But this is not my platform to showcase what all I'm doing, but this is your flow. So why don't you share what you are doing and what are the kind of impacts that you are making? But I'm not going to give you a lot of time. I'm so sorry, because I can see that our co-panelist, she's really not well. So if we can do it maybe in a very crisp way, it will be great.
Yeah, sure. So basically, we are using technologies to make an environmental and social impact. We are using the concept of smart contracts to connect funders to tree planters worldwide, basically those who are who love to fund forests, reforestation and afforestation. And it's the simplest explanation I can give about what we are doing, but there are many things around that. Like we are providing storytelling opportunities to planters who use NFTs, like artists. So each of those trees are NFTs and can act as a collectible asset for funders. And then later on, they can also claim carbon credits from, the same from the same action that they have done. So basically they fund trees, a planter plants those trees, gives updates from those trees. The smart contract manages how to pay the planter and also different stakeholders in this ecosystem. And then also it gives more benefits to the funders, like the carbon credits. There are many things around it, but this is how we are using smart contracts to create a multi-stakeholder approach in climate action, especially in the forest sector. And also, we are trying to unlock new opportunities, like those unprecedented opportunities in climate finance, like this exact concept of NFTs, which brought unprecedented finance opportunity for artists, are being used in the same way for forest planters.
Amazing, amazing. Super work, Ermia. Not only that, I heard that you have been supported by a couple of more other companies and, of course, more team players. Could you please tell us about that? Probably you got support from a lot of big other community people as well. Could you please tell us about it?
Actually, it was like a few months ago that we got an investment from UNICEF Innovation Fund. It was basically a blockchain program that about like 500 blockchain companies participated, and Treasure was one of the 8 companies that got this investment. So, and thank you. And we are really happy that we are partnering with UNICEF to like expand this project and run more pilot programs in different regions. So in less than a month, we are launching the public beta of the protocol, in which like planters from 10 countries have joined Treasure to plant trees, supply trees to Treasure protocol, and on the other side, funders can support them like by collecting the trees. We call this Genesis collection, the first 10,000 trees that are being planted in Treasure. And that is the start of the start point of the story. There are many other organizations that are especially interested to support those planters. And interestingly, some of them are like in the metaverse, like they're not in the real world. So we are basically thinking to provide our trees like as in-app assets to these metaverses games. So when you are playing a game, look, when you see a tree, that tree is linked to a real tree in the world. So there are many things going around it. I think in a month, the audience can follow us on Treasure on Instagram or Treasure Talks on Twitter. And there are a lot of good news coming in the following weeks.
Super, super. So in a way, you are actually helping the entire climate to probably enhance our planet's health. And it's an alarming situation nowadays. I'm associated with a couple of global organizations who are actually working very deep with our iceberg that's melting across the world. And we are utilizing technology to solve such kind of issues. And talking about technology and climate change, I have a question to Smriti. I hope you're feeling good, Smriti, now? Okay, super. So the next question to you is, can AI accelerate our response to the climate change? Is there any possibility?
Yeah, so I'm sorry about earlier. And yeah, so basically climate change is one of the planet's biggest challenge right now. And according to UN 2021, this is the final year when we can actually make some change to tackle the rising global temperatures. And if we don't act now, we may face COVID-sized pandemics every 10 years. And in order to accelerate the process, AI and technology definitely plays a major role in finding quick and frugal solutions during this time of urgency. So AI use cases can help towards adaptation benefits, preventing wildfires, mitigating environmental risks posed in critical areas, drone surveillance, monitoring, as well as predictive analysis to make Earth more resilient in the near future. AI will be at heart with core technologies, core climate change technologies. It will also help decrease environmental harm, including CO2 emissions, leverage massive amounts of data, help build advanced remote sensing devices, etc. Also, emissions can be halted in the energy sector, which currently contributes almost 73% of emissions all across the world, by using AI to forecast the supply and demand of power for the national grid, improve the scheduling of renewables, and reduce life cycle fossil fuel emissions through predictive maintenance. Also, using AI ethically to battle climate crisis will lead towards environmentally and socially responsible projects, which will have a good impact on the planet as well. So I can give a quick example of how we are using AI to tackle like climate change like are part of the contribution.
Sure.
So currently, if you want like carbon credits, if you want to buy carbon credits, then it's like a huge process, which starts from someone first. There's like a landowner who's doing sustainable farming, and they first have to get their land verified, and then someone will audit and check like, okay, this is X number of carbon credits is here in the project, and then someone else can buy it. So in the first step, currently this whole process is manual, expensive, exclusionary, and unreliable. So right now, currently the verifiers, they have to conduct a site visit with a measuring tape where they measure the trees. They measure with just a small sample size of the forest and then use that to calculate the average carbon in the forest. The second thing is them being expensive. So this is time consuming and extremely expensive. So expensive that it makes the viable minimum size of a forest in order to qualify for carbon verification 1,500 to 1,200 acres. So again, this is exclusionary for almost 500 million small landholders who have land smaller than that. So
Wow.
the answer is that right now 500 million small landholders globally, they can't access the service, and they're not like paid for the sustainable farming that they're doing. It's also unreliable because projects are verified in small samples intermediately. So carbon credits being sold in the market are often faulty. And yeah, so basically we can use technology to tackle this. So our deep tech solves these problems by monitoring, reporting, and verification of almost every tree in the landscape. Quantify carbon with almost 99% accuracy for small landholders. We're focusing on deep tech solutions. We use supervised deep learning, convolutional neural networks, which minimizes the need of any expensive ground truthing. This reduces the area size of the area for physical verification, which tends to be the problem for majority landholders. This also allows us to provide carbon payments and other financial benefits to 500 million small-scale landholders globally who currently do not have access. So we're using satellite imagery and proprietary deep learning models that are 18,000-fold more efficient as compared to the current standards, and we have filed a patent for it. And with very, like as I said, very little expensive ground truthing needed. And we are official partners with European Space Agency, who provides us with high-resolution satellite images. And then we also use some open-source satellite images and using more LiDAR data, drone data, etc., make the model better. So basically, we use technology in our case to measure and monitor biodiversity and climate adaptation benefits, which help raise the profile and confidence in nature-based solutions, carbon marketplace, and increasing the trust and transparency, etc. So that's probably an example of how AI can help accelerate the whole process.
Super. Beautiful knowledge. But when you talked about carbon footprint, I would love to ask and go back to Ermia regarding the same. There is a saying I was reading that 20% of world's power consumption is happening because of all these blockchain solutions and crypto mining. Is it true, Ermia, that it's actually increasing heat? It is actually taking more power consumption? What's your take in it?
I think it's definitely wrong because like 20% is so much. The latest study, reliable study that has been conducted was by Cambridge University that showed that like there are different concepts. There is like energy production, there is electricity production, and then there is electricity consumption. So these numbers are all different. So regarding the electricity consumption, Bitcoin is now using, let's go back like to this blockchain and how different like consuming power. So we have two types of blockchain, two main types of blockchains. So one of them is like POW, proof of work. The other one is POS, proof of stake. So those proof of work blockchains are usually the ones that we are referring to them as power consumers. Bitcoin and current version of Ethereum are some of them. So most of the power consumption comes from Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is now using no more than 0.5% of, global electricity consumption, the share from the electricity consumption. And if we go back to the energy like usage, like compared to the Bitcoin's share from the energy consumption, it's like 0.08%. So it's so different from that statement. But the point is that it's basically like when we are studying such a phenomena, we should consider like the positive and the negative externalities together, the social and the economic. So when we are talking about, if we are saying that is blockchain anti-climate, we should also consider that what other benefits blockchain is bringing to the world and how it is replacing the financial system. It's disrupting the financial system. Even in the case of Bitcoin, I have been in this space for many years, but I haven't had a lot of Bitcoin transactions. It was like a personal choice for me. I was mainly using Ethereum, but and also in the community, I'm also always talking about the negative impact of Bitcoin on environment. But I know that it has some other benefits. So let's go back to the traditional banking system. There is let's go back to the transparency of blockchain. So this is like a two-edged sword. So because blockchain is so transparent, it is giving these numbers so easily to everyone. And everyone is Bitcoin is just spending this amount of electricity, this amount of power, but no one knows how much energy, how much electricity the banking, the traditional financial system is using. Imagine all the banks, the physical spaces, the transportation of money to those banks, the gas, oil that these cars are using. These are all
So there was a report by McKinsey and Company, and they showed that self-driving cars will dramatically decrease accidents by up to 90%, and prevent almost $190 billion US dollars in damages, health costs annually. And the thing is, when it comes to self-driving cars, it took a lot of research to come up with the algorithms, development, collaboration between cross-functional teams, etc. Also, when such kind of technology comes up, a lot of different ethics come up along with it. So we have to constantly monitor, analyze, and there's always ethics around it. But yeah, overall, it's safer. Should I elaborate more, or?
No, it's perfectly fine, because we are actually going towards a very interesting situation. So I'll be asking the similar kind of question to Ermia. When we are talking about all such kind of applications, all such kind of human intelligence versus machine intelligence, and we are talking about a lot of different variety of technology coming together, working hand in hand. I'm sure that AI and blockchain both usually goes hand in hand as well. So if I may refer machine learning over here, that's an integral part of all these both technologies. Without ML, probably you can't come to a conclusion. Do you feel that we are actually going towards a future which will emerge a lot of technologies together, where we will be in a very specific future which will be completely automated, and we will be using a lot more other technologies coming together to give a particular solution to humankind? Your takes on it, Ermia?
Generally, I think we humans will always be there. Like, we need them to do a lot of things with these technologies. I don't think that we are going to reach to that point. But these paradigm shifts are always happening. Like, any kind of paradigm shift that was happening, there were people who were talking about such things. Like, for example, imagine when they were like doing agriculture by hand, and then the tractors came, and they were like, okay, tractors are going to replace those farmers. When Uber came, they were like, Uber is replacing taxi drivers, but the same taxi drivers went, this was just a paradigm shift, and they were just getting like sometimes better paid. They were like maximizing their the salary that could get, and sometimes like other people could get new jobs because of these paradigm shifts. So basically, I think the best like, I'm not the best person to say this, but personally, I think that usually the best approach is to welcome these paradigm shifts, and then think about them in advance to prepare new job opportunities, train people for these new job opportunities to like have a smoother shift in this paradigm. So regarding the AI and blockchain, I think these are like two of the technologies that are really close to each other, and they can help each other in terms of like because the like for machine learning and AI, data is like food, is like fuel, and blockchain is like the industry of data, and also like there are a lot of things happening around data in blockchain, especially the ownership of data. And I think I haven't seen a lot of like practical. I have seen like companies that have started this, but I haven't seen like large scale practical use cases. But I believe that we are very close to that. Like, they are going to maybe decentralize the ownership of the people's data in the future, and then at the same time, those AI companies maybe they are going to use these data in a better way, unlike the way these large companies like Google, Facebook, and other companies are using our data. So this is something that I believe is going to happen in the very, short-term future.
Interesting. So I have one last question to both of you. Probably that will be really, really controversial. But I want
sorry, Arijit, just asking you to be really brief, because we have another slot starting in 15 minutes.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It doesn't over. Yes, please.
We can skip, no problem.
No, if it's quick and just a teaser, I think it's cool.
Okay, so the last question to you is basically when we look at these tools are being used by a lot of corporates. Of course, it's a transparent system, decentralized. But don't you feel that this AI and blockchain tools will be in the hands of very specific number of companies? And on the other hand, if you look at the government, they always strive for power, and companies will always strive for money. So do you feel that that is good for humanity to probably give many power to private companies, or you feel that that's a complete myth that people are thinking? And what's your take, last point, on the ethics that's often not backed into the digital system by making people's decision? Maybe 1 minute each of you, and we close.
Okay, I can start. So regarding like democratizing these tools, I think it's usually, I can say it's always better, but it's usually better. Like, we can take a look at how, for example, in terms of, and also it's like situational. We need to look at the sector that we are talking to. For example, in terms of financial system, like, let's see how those who are in power in the traditional financial system are abusing their power right now towards the other countries. And like, this is like the scenario that they have the power. We don't have enough data about the scenario that people have the power, but I believe that always like democratizing is better because people have the right to own their, I mean, freedom. So it's not always like that. Those regulators are creating good laws and good regulations for people.
Super. Smriti, your tips, please.
Yeah, so that was a really good point, Ermia. So when it essentially, with the increasing scale of artificial intelligence technology in terms of size of neural networks, energy use, size of data sets, and the prevalence of technology in society, it is definitely raising stakes for major ethical questions. And the questioning is made of all of more urgent because of its scale at this point. AI systems are reaching tremendous size in terms of computation power that they need, and the data they consume, etc. Sometimes this questioning is a silver hope that with the right guidance, AI can help solve some of the biggest problems in the world or any technology. So the same technology that may propel bias can reveal bias in hiring decisions, for example. The same technology that is a big hog can potentially contribute answers to slow or even reverse global warming. The risks of AI at present moment arguably outweigh the benefits, but the potential benefits are large and it's definitely worth pursuing. And I think a key question to ask is how we can use technology or how we can use AI to do or bring out something better in society. I think that's probably an end I would leave it at.
An open end.
Super.
Right?
Super. So I believe that if I may summarize within 30 seconds, technology will
Oh, you
always
really, but yeah.
technology will always be there, and it will always help the humanity. And as many as new technological involvement we are going through, we will probably encourage more and more companies to come forward, build new solutions, make bigger impact, just like Ermia and Smriti is doing in the entire planet. And I wish that Alt Future Summit, just like this, we are organizing a panel discussion. Probably we can do more great works together to help and increase the knowledge base into the entire planet. Thank you so much for being with us and
Thank you
watching
so
us
much.
and listening to us. I'm so sorry about the overshooting of time.
It's a really interesting topic. So thank you so much for being there and for being here and for taking the time to discuss this. Thanks, Smriti. I know you're sick, and thanks for giving us your energy. Okay. And just to the people who are watching on YouTube, we will just close this stream and open the other one. Okay, the ecosystems one. I will announce the winners in the beginning of the other. Okay. Thank you so much. Bye bye. See you soon.
Bye. Thank you.